season, and the Phoenix Suns are playing games, and high school sports has been playing. We just got through with a high school football season. We made it through that with the pandemic and everything. So if all of those leagues and sports can play, then we are hoping and praying that Major League Baseball can get spring training started on February 27th, and we get this thing started. But if they push spring training back, then of course that's going to push back the start of the regular season. And like you said, the MLBPA they're staunch. They want 162 games. And that's what they want, because obviously 60 games last year was clearly not enough. And the MLBPA, they want a full entire season in. And obviously they want the most ideal situation for them would be for spring training to start on time and nothing goes wrong and no games are postponed or canceled or pushed far ahead, as we're seeing in the NBA, where games are being postponed and possibly being rescheduled for the back half of their season. So the MLBPA does not want to have that happen on their watch. So they want a full spring training and full regular season. So they just have to keep monitoring with the local health facilities and local counties and the governments surrounding this area. And also, I'm sure also in Florida, they're doing the same thing for the Grapefruit League. It's just a fluid situation. As we all know, this COVID situation, it ebbs and flows, and hopefully it's going to ebb down where we can actually get a full spring training and a full season in, because that would be phenomenal.
Oh, gosh, yes. So, and then we're here. This is all coming down from the Major League Commissioner, Rob Manfred. Of course, there's not a surprise, at least at least for me, to hear of this, which is something that I actually did expect at some point to come down, whether it was before spring training starting or as spring training was going on. And then this is just what is said suggesting to allow for the COVID situation to improve here. For our listeners to know that there are 10 facilities in the Phoenix area in which teams are hosted. So the Cactus League executives are saying that they're going to be ready to go and starting the spring training, and they're not pushing. They're not wanting to push that start date back. So saying that's going to start. We have MLBPA as well. They're wanting to go ahead and play a full season. Because we all know how that's going to be affected yet again should that change at all. We will not have very many happy people.
No. I know one of the biggest concerns is the amount of fans that would come. And of course, as we all know, fans that come here for spring training and fans that go to Florida for spring training come from all different areas of the country and the world. And with that, they could potentially bring the virus with them. We don't know what that situation is like. And also for the players are coming from all different parts of the world. And I'm sure their respective clubs will test them well ahead of their arrival in Arizona. But still, we don't know. That's another unknown variable in this whole situation, Joe. The fans that are coming in from all over the world, all different walks of life. Same thing with the players. There's so many different things and so many different factors that are playing into that could threaten the likelihood that this spring training season gets started or you actually get a full one in.
No, exactly. And of course, the environment and safety of everyone is what's at stake and what's most important for the players, for the coaches, everyone involved, employees, and the personnel and the fans. So one of the things that I, in my opinion, think would be great and beneficial, and this is just me thinking out loud as you were saying this, and just thinking as far as also NFL, they didn't have camp.
Yep.
Basketball as well, how they were affected with training.
No.
Hockey, none of them. So baseball, different story. They're wanting to go ahead and go forward. Okay, if you want to go forward, okay, have your training, have your spring training. Have it only be the players and the personnel that definitely needs to be involved. But don't have any fans in the stands.
Yeah, have it like the NBA bubble where there's no fans.
Of course, they have to kind of, be active and play some games to get their bodies, in motion and avoid any type of injury. Of course, have those practices, probably have some simulated games, but don't have spring training games. Don't have fans or anything like that. I think that would be best for all parties involved. Of course, we have the money, which money talks, and that's for MLB and those cities involved will take the major hit. But it's best to take that hit than to take a hit a different way, in which we don't want to see, and just, have the safety and the health of everyone involved, not have it, be at risk.
Yes, Joe, and it is important that they get a season in, because and I know this collective bargaining agreement, it ends in December. So there's still so many questions to be answered as to whether if they can come together on terms of a new collective bargaining agreement after December. MLB and MLBPA, we know how frosty that relationship is between those two organizations. We saw it as they were bickering and fighting over the 60-game season that they barely got in. So if they, that doesn't bode well for what could potentially happen in 11 months when this collective bargaining agreement comes to an end.
Right, exactly. There's already so much that's already frosty, and that's been left over from last season, and it seems like it's now with this pushback and that we're seeing with wanting to push back the season or spring training. It's right now it's spring training. The next thing you're already seeing with spring training will for sure be expecting for a pushback for MLB season. So I'm definitely not surprised there. So
me neither. No. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm. Well, I hope we'll get to see some baseball, a little bit more at least than last season. But my baseball withdrawals are not getting better, and now I'm a little shaky with this news that has evolved.
Well, just think happy thoughts. Just think that it's going to actually happen, and we're going to get a full season in. But if we don't get 162, and I hope that Rob Manfred and MLBP, I hope they have a plan B and a plan C should things go awry with the pandemic and the if there's a spike in cases. We just don't know. You can plan for you can lay the best plans out, Joe, but then they go awry because this pandemic, this thing is you can't predict it. It's unpredictable. It goes where it wants to. It affects who it wants to affect, and it doesn't care about anybody. It'll affect anybody. You can be a billionaire. You can be a multi-millionaire, a billionaire. It'll hit you too.
Right. Exactly that. I only have typically about 2 weeks in between from when the Super Bowl ends to when baseball starts happening. That means everyone reporting and games starting and spring training and all of that fun stuff. So I'm hoping for the best. I have high hopes, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
That we'll have some baseball happening in February, but if not, then I don't know what's going to happen. And your girl over here is probably going to lose her mind and all sorts of sanity, even more than from Sunday's game. Just to tell you that.
Yeah, both of my girls, you and Aileen, will lose your collective minds if there's little to no baseball this year.
You already know how hard that was for us to keep it together, and for you to help, keep us together, both you and PLR and everyone who knows us. So I'm just only hoping for the best.
Yeah, because what we saw in 60 games last year, Joe, was great. It was a good season, but once they got to the playoffs, they took it to another level, didn't they? Those playoffs it was thrilling. It was some of the best baseball I've ever seen in my entire life. It's just everything was on the line. It was so unusual. It's something we had never seen before, with an expanded roster of teams and a bubble situation for all these teams. But those young men on all those teams that made the playoffs, they came out and they just balled out. Every single one of those teams gave it their all because they knew this was something new and different, and it was a different rush of a feeling for those guys, for all those players. and the Dodgers were the ones to come out on top. But that was some fun stuff to watch, and it was fun stuff for us to cover and talk about.
It definitely was. On the downside, yes, it was a shortened season, but it was full of excitement and a lot happening, most definitely. So they definitely made up for that. The loss of baseball with everything and the way that they came out, the playoffs and everything, how it all transpired. But let's just have a little bit more of an extended season this time around. But no, I'm hoping that this will be even, if not as great, better season than last. Especially going into the playoffs. And speaking of which, we saw last season, the National League had designated hitter. We had an extended playoff format as well. And that was proposed. MLB proposed to the MLBPA having an extended playoff format and designated hitter for the National League. And it was rejected. I personally thought that having the designated hitter, let's just start off with designated hitter, having that in the National League, I think that's great. Yes, it does take away from those pitchers who have become hitters and can actually perform at the plate. But at the same time, it does save you energy, and it saves you from injury, from taking that risk of injury. That's my thought. That's my opinion. And I am actually a little surprised that the MLBPA rejected that.
Me too. I'm surprised they rejected both of those, the expanded playoffs and the DH. I agree with you. The DH is great because, as you said, it saves those arms, those pitchers' arms, because we know how valuable those arms were. We saw those in the playoffs. How important an arms race is when you're just throwing guys out there every 2 or 3 innings. You got to have guys that are fresh with fresh arms and fresh attitudes and a fresh mindset to come out and play baseball, especially in the playoffs in a high pressure situation. And we saw that how many great pitchers came in and out and just saved games, rescued their baseball teams. But it is kind of strange that they said no to the DH. And I love that expanded playoff situation. It's kind of cool that more teams that got in, more teams that wouldn't have necessarily got a chance to play in the playoffs. And they had a chance to be in that second season in that baseball tournament. I'm really surprised, like you are, that the MLBPA shot both of those down.
Yeah, and I understand that it was both being presented together. So the benefits and the payoff probably wasn't of what they wanted. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe there will be some type of counter, offer that may be presented in order to maybe move forward with it. Who knows? But I would like to see the designated hitter be implemented in National League throughout. So I think, for those reasons, which we mentioned, would be great. So just having universal designated hitter would just even the playing field too. So let's going on into the extended playoff format, which was also rejected. We saw in 2020 due to the pandemic and having the shortened season and allowing more teams to go ahead and be able to go into the playoff. So it was implemented of 16-team playoff format for the postseason. So which that would allowed the top 2 teams in each division plus the 2 remaining teams with the best records in each league, which then made up of 8 teams in the American and National Leagues. So I liked having the extended playoffs and having additional teams in the playoffs, because those that when you typically at least as of the past seasons, you'll get to see those that barely didn't make it, or those that you see that should be in the postseason. Mm-hmm. Just get that taken away from them for because of a game or just because of a record or the way that it stands, and lose out on that shot. And I think it was this last season, the way that it was, and having that even made it more exciting to watch.
It did, because some teams that haven't been there in a while, like the San Diego Padres or the Cincinnati Reds or the Chicago